Today is Monday, November 11th. What to know about President-elect Trump's call with Russian President Putin as the war in Ukraine seems to be escalating. And a FEMA employee fired for telling her team to avoid Trump supporters has her own take on what happened. Also, wildfires on both coasts are impacting residents in the country's two biggest metro areas. Plus, how veterans are getting an extra thanks this Veterans Day, what major mistake Mattel made on the packaging of its new Wicked dolls, and how Beyoncé just set a new record for the Grammys. Those stories and more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. For the first time since he won the election, President-elect Donald Trump spoke on the phone with Russian President Vladimir Putin. And news outlets like the Washington Post and Reuters are now reporting details of that call. They cite sources who say Trump told Putin not to escalate the conflict with Ukraine and reminded him of America's large military presence in Europe. Though at this point, it seems the war is escalating anyway. Over the weekend, Ukraine launched the biggest drone strike on Russia's capital since the beginning of the war. But Russia quickly fired back with its own drones targeted at Ukraine. Also over the weekend, Russian President Putin signed into law a pact with North Korea. It says the two countries' militaries will have to back each other up in case either is attacked. And it seems they're ready. The New York Times cites U.S. and Ukrainian officials who say 50,000 Russian and North Korean troops are training together with advanced Russian equipment preparing a new attack. Bottom line, there aren't many signs of peace coming anytime soon. Still, Russian officials say they're optimistic a Trump presidency could make a difference. Trump also had a call last week with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and both sides say the call was friendly, even though Ukraine is reportedly nervous about an upcoming Trump presidency. Trump has complained about how much American taxpayers are spending on Ukraine under the Biden administration, as the U.S. is sending Ukraine billions of dollars worth of military and economic aid each month on a war it doesn't seem to be winning. But the White House says the cost is worth it to keep the conflict from spilling into other parts of Europe and prompting a much larger war that could ultimately cost the U.S. much more. In fact, Reuters reports President Biden is planning to talk to Trump about the importance of keeping that aid flowing. Biden and Trump plan to meet at the White House later this week. Federal prosecutors are coming out with new details about a murder-for-hire plot to kill President-elect Trump during the campaign. The U.S. Justice Department pressed charges against one Iranian man in particular. The DOJ says he was working on behalf of the Iranian government, but was also sharing information with the FBI, hoping to work out a deal for someone else who's in an American prison. He apparently told agents he was supposed to come up with a plan to assassinate Trump as revenge for the death of Iranian military leader Qasem Soleimani, who was killed during Trump's first term. He says he was also told to murder 2 Jewish Americans living in New York City and target Israeli tourists in Sri Lanka. Iran is saying none of that is true. The man actually lived in the U.S. for a long time and spent time in a New York prison for robbery before he was deported. Though now he's actually living in Iran, so he's still at large. Well, FEMA says it fired an employee for telling her team not to visit homes with yard signs supporting Trump. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, says this happened last month during Hurricane Milton relief efforts in Florida. The FEMA administrator said the agency is deeply disturbed by this and believes it was an isolated incident, adding that FEMA is now contacting the people who may not have been reached. But the employee who was fired has a different take. She told the Washington Examiner FEMA made her a scapegoat, that she and her team did in fact canvass houses with Trump signage and provided resources to Trump supporters. She said the shorthand that was seen in the leaked message was just referring to specific streets that they couldn't go to because of hostile political encounters already. She said this was a time when FEMA workers were having their lives threatened. Florida's governor has called for an investigation. A shooting during homecoming weekend at Tuskegee University in Alabama left one person dead and more than a dozen others hurt. Police say the 18-year-old man who was killed was not a student, but others injured are. A man in his 20s was taken into custody. He apparently left the scene of the shooting and had a handgun with a machine gun conversion device. For now, he's facing a gun charge, though more charges may come. The FBI is asking the public for any tips or videos that may be helpful. Firefighters across the northeastern U.S. are tackling a series of wildfires that have impacted air quality from New York City to Philadelphia. The area has been dealing with unusually warm and dry conditions, and even the first measurable rainfall since September is not expected to help much. One fire in New Jersey and New York, about an hour northwest of New York City, is especially worrisome right now, and an 18-year-old New York State Parks employee died while fighting it. Firefighters hope to get a handle on it by the end of the week. And on the other side of the country, firefighters have finally made some progress on the mountain fire in Southern California, though it's still only 26% contained at last check, and it's already destroyed more than 100 homes or buildings. Today is Veterans Day. The annual federal holiday celebrates the bravery and sacrifice of all those who have served in the U.S. Armed Forces. There will be parades, ceremonies, and other special events to celebrate the big day. Most federal and local government offices, including the U.S. Postal Service, will likely be closed. Most banks are also closed, as well as some other workplaces and schools. But most stores and restaurants will stay open. In fact, places like Applebee's, Buffalo Wild Wings, Chili's, Denny's, California Pizza Kitchen, and many more are giving military and veterans a free meal today. Places like Starbucks and Peet's Coffee are brewing free coffees as well. Oh, and Paramount Plus streaming service is increasing the discount it gives to verified military members, raising it from 25% off to 50% off, now available for life. So to any service members, veterans, or military family members listening, thank you so much for your service to this country. All right, we have more news for you still ahead. But first, this episode is brought to you by ZocDoc. I love so much about my life, but let's be honest, life's list of things to do is a bit much sometimes. So I welcome any tools to help make it all easier. And when it comes to finding the right doctor and making appointments, ZocDoc can help me cross those off my list so much faster. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors, choose the right one for your needs, and click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skincare, and much more. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, are located nearby, or are a good fit for any medical need, and who are highly rated by verified patients. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking. You can even score same-day appointments. So whenever I need a new doctor, I check ZocDoc. Stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to the news. U.S. stocks closed the week last week at record highs. President-elect Trump's victory, coupled with the Fed cutting interest rates, sent both the Dow Jones and the S&P 500 to their highest levels ever. The crypto market is also continuing to soar. Bitcoin saw record gains last week, hitting $80,000 for the first time. Overall, Bitcoin is up 91% this year alone. More than a dozen monkeys that escaped from a research lab are still on the loose in South Carolina. 43 rhesus monkeys got out of their enclosure last week when a caretaker at a primate research facility called Alpha Genesis did not secure the door. 25 monkeys have since been recaptured, but 18 are still roaming free. Many of them are reportedly jumping back and forth over the fence separating Alpha Genesis from the outside world. Alpha Genesis says the monkeys are young females, mostly weighing 6 to 7 pounds, though the lab told police that because of their age, they've never been used for testing, and they're too young to carry disease. Still, authorities advise local residents to keep windows and doors closed and locked, and to not interact with the animals. This actually isn't the first time this has happened. Back in 2016, 19 monkeys escaped from Alpha Genesis, which conducts primate testing for the government, universities, and private contractors. They were all recaptured and brought back to the facility at that time. Well, there was a huge mistake on the packaging of Mattel dolls designed to promote the new Wicked movie. A website listed on the boxes directs people to an adults-only website instead of one about the film. The packaging should tell fans to go to wickedmovie.com, but it left out the movie part. Customers quickly noticed the error and raised the alarm on social media. Mattel released a statement apologizing and saying it's taking immediate action to correct the problem. The dolls have been pulled off store shelves across the U.S. For any already sold, though, the company warned parents to throw out the boxes or block out the website so kids don't accidentally go there. Wicked comes out in theaters on November 22nd. It's unclear if the dolls will be back on shelves by then. Beyoncé is once again Queen Bee of the Grammys. The pop star picked up the most Grammy nominations of any artist this year, earning 11 for her country crossover album, Cowboy Carter. Those 11 nods also pushed her to the top of the all-time Grammy nomination list. She now has 99 total. The second-place nomination leader, Beyoncé's husband, Jay-Z, has 88. Beyoncé has a chance to take home trophies for Album of the Year and Record of the Year. Despite her history-making number of nominations, she's never actually won either of those premier categories. Coming in behind Beyoncé with the most Grammy nominations this year were several multi-genre stars who each got 7 nods: Charli XCX, Kendrick Lamar, Billie Eilish, and Post Malone. Taylor Swift picked up 6 nominations. And 2 of the year's biggest breakout stars, Chappell Roan and Sabrina Carpenter, each earned 6 nods as well, including for Best New Artist. The 67th Grammy Awards are happening February 1st. Well, that's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, this episode is brought to you by Lumen. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. As I've been using it, I've learned so much about how my metabolism and body works, and I love how easy and fun Lumen is to use. Again, all you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll see what's going on with your metabolism. Then on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs and gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, workout, sleep, and even stress management. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you get real-time data and recommendations. Your metabolism is actually your body's engine. It's how your body turns the food you eat into fuel that keeps you going. This is the type of technology that used to only be available to top athletes in clinics, but now Lumen makes lab-level metabolic testing accessible. So if you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/newsworthy to get 15% off your Lumen. That's lumen.me/newsworthy for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. Now back to Money Monday. Heading into the election last week, voters in 5 states were asked to either increase the minimum wage or add other benefits for workers. And ultimately, voters in Alaska and Missouri approved raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour over the next few years. Employers in those states will also have to provide at least 1 hour of sick leave for every 30 hours their employees work. Nebraska also voted to mandate sick leave, but did not specify how employees could accrue that sick time. In Massachusetts and California, voters weren't as keen on the wage hikes. Massachusetts decisively rejected a proposal to raise the minimum wage for tipped workers only. And California's state proposition to boost the minimum wage to what would be a national high minimum wage of $18 an hour is still too close to call, but is trending toward no, with almost 3/4 of votes counted. Right now, the federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour, and that hasn't changed since 2009. Even before the election, 34 states, territories, and districts had minimum wages higher than the federal standard. Thank you so much for joining us today and making us part of your daily routine. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe or follow The Newsworthy in your favorite podcast app. All right, we'll be back with even more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.